Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today reading from Canto 10, Chapter 10, text number 6 and 7. Tang drishtva vidita devyo vivasdraha shapa shankitaha vasangshi paryadhu shighram vivastro naiva guhyako. Actually, I'll recite the second verse. I made a mistake there. That's the one I'll speak on. Oh yeah, got that. Okay. Do drishtva madhira mato Sri Madandho Suratmajo Tayor Anugrahartaya Shapang Dasyan Idang Jago Do Drishtva Madhira Mato Sri Madandho Suratmajo Tayor Anugrahartaya Shapang Dasyan Idang Jago Do Drishtva Madhira Mato Sri Madandho Suratmajo Tayor Anugrahartaya Shapam Dasyan Idang Jago. Madhijis. To the two boys of the demigods, Drishtva, seeing Madhira Mato, very intoxicated because of drinking liquor. Srimad Andho, being blind with false prestige and opulence. Sura Atmajo, the two sons of the demigods. Tayo, unto them, Anugraha Arthaya, for the purpose of giving special mercy. Shapam, a curse. Dasyan, desiring to offer them. Idam, this. Jago, uttered. So I'll just read the translation to text 6 first, and then translation to this one. Dang drishpa vidito devyo vistratra shapa shankitaha vasangsi paryadhu shighram vivrasto naiva guyako. Upon seeing Narada, the naked young girls of the demigods were very much ashamed. Afraid of being cursed, they covered their bodies with their garments. But the two sons of Kuvera did not do so. Instead, not caring about Narada, they remained naked. And today's verse. To drishtva madira mato srimadandho suratmajo tayor anugahartaya shapam dasyan idang jago. Seeing the two sons of the demigods naked and intoxicated by opulence and false prestige, Devarishi Narada, in order to show them special mercy, desired to give them a special curse. Thus he spoke as follows. Purport. Although in the beginning Narada Muni appeared very angry and cursed them, at the end the two demigods Nala Kuvara and Manigriva were able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, face to face. Thus the curse was ultimately auspicious and brilliant. One has to judge what kind of curse Narada placed upon them. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives herein a good example. When a father finds his child deeply asleep, but the child has to take some medicine to cure some disease, the father pinches the child so the child will get up and take the medicine. In a similar way, Narada Muni cursed Nalaguvara and Manigriva in order to cure their disease of material blindness. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Jayo Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasari Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Seeing the two sons of the demigods naked and intoxicated by opulence and false prestige, Devarishi Narada, in order to show them special mercy, desired to give them a special curse. Thus he spoke as follows. So we can understand that a saintly person, he wants to make everyone a devotee. Narada is famous. Wherever he goes, he makes devotees. There's no Tamil translation today, right? So, in one of the recent purports, Srila Prabhupada explains that a devotee, he's very expert in giving the required medicine to help someone come to Krishna consciousness. So for some people the medicine may be in one way, and some people the medicine will be in another way. You know, just like we saw these two fellows were in the celestial gardens in the heavenly planets, and they were very, the sons of Kuvera. They're very they come from a very cultured family and a very cultured place, the heavenly planets. No one's allowed to go to the heavenly planets unless they're in the very, very high Sattvagun, very high qualities, So it was extraordinary to see them in such a condition, So you would expect better behavior. Imagine if you were taken to Swarga Lok and you see people, bathing naked in a lake with young ladies and drinking wine. You'd wonder, is this really Swarga Lok? Where did we come to? So you would expect better. So such persons, they they required some chastisement, And in India, it's the same. When you come to India, India is the land of dharma. It's punya bhumi. So you expect to meet cultured people here. So actually when we come from the West, especially on the first visit, and you come, you get a bit of a shock because not everyone's on that level, You nowadays in India, everywhere you go, you see some crazy person or some drunk person, isn't it? You don't have to walk far, But then we see Prabhupada, when he came to the West, he gave it in a different way, The people were already fallen, and they didn't know any better. So you don't expect to see such cultured behavior. So Prabhupada knew. He also went. Some park was there in New York, at Tompkins Square Park, where people used to come and do a similar kind of thing, taking intoxication, enjoying the young ladies, taking the drugs and this kind of thing. So Prabhupada, he didn't go there and give everyone a curse, It would have been ridiculous, So Prabhupada, he just went on and sat down humbly and Hare Krishna, chanting the holy names. And in that way, he attracted people and people became purified. So Prabhupada, he was very expert in giving the proper medicine, And he was extremely tolerant. He didn't, we heard how Prabhupada in the morning when the devotees were taking the bath, they didn't know how to respect the sadhu, Prabhupada was waiting in the queue, behind these fellows, And Prabhupada, he would do all the cooking for the Sunday feast, and no one was there to help him clean up afterwards, These hippies, these dirty fellows, they'd come, they'd eat the whole feast and enjoy very nicely and then go. And Prabhupada was left washing all the pots and everything. And then finally one day, one of the devotees who was becoming a little purified, he saw what was going on and said, "Oh, Prabhupada, can I help you to clean up afterwards, to wash pots like that?" And Prabhupada said, "Oh, I was just waiting for someone to ask," So finally they became purified. But of course, it's explained in one of the earlier verses how the general tendency when people become rich and opulent, the material nature is such that we tend to become degraded. Someone who has nothing, the temptation is less. But as soon as someone gets wealth, Prabhupada actually explains, as soon as one gets opulence and wealth, if he's not properly educated, then that wealth will be used for wine, women, and intoxication and gambling, all these things. So education means not this education that we see now in the world. They probably encourage such things, But proper education means tapasa, brahmacharya. Prabhupada saying that education begins with the brahmacharya. Actually, that's the first stage of life. We learn, what is proper culture, what is proper behavior, what is proper knowledge, like that. So someone who's properly educated like that, then they won't, even if they do accumulate wealth and whatever later on, because even the king's son, he would go to the brahmachari ashram. So if someone's properly trained, he will know how to utilize his money and everything properly, And Prabhupada explains that these Vedic rules and regulations, they're to diminish our false prestige. The problem is that in this world, this false prestige, that's there in India. It's, you know, when we're distributing books and we meet people, first thing people tell us is, oh yes, I'm such and such, I'm head of such and such company, I'm earning such and such wealth. This all calculation is about prestige, isn't it? So everyone's hungry for this prestige, and they want to lord it over others, and if someone gets in the way, they become very angry, you know. Like one time, selling books on the train, I met one big fellow, and immediately, no, I'm not interested, get away. So I turned, the rest of his family was there in the train, they were all traveling together. So I saw one lady, I don't know if it was his wife or someone, but they seemed interested in what I was saying, so I just turned around, oh, anyone else interested? I started to explain, and then he chastised me, no, they're with me, Yeah. So I said, probably I shouldn't have said it, but I said, what to do? Someone else in your family might be interested. They're not all donkeys like you, So I probably shouldn't have said such a thing, but as soon as I said it, he became angry like anything, So I just quickly made my exit, So people are like that, But like I say, sometimes people need to be chastised. Another time, I met someone similar, and he was extremely disrespectful, and offensive. So somehow, I became a little angry, and I chastised him somewhat, And when I was walking away, I was feeling bad about it. Oh, I shouldn't have lost my temper, What kind of behavior is that? And I was feeling really bad about it. So I came to the end of the train, and I came back again because I still had more time, and I thought maybe more people will be on the train. And in the meantime, I forgot about him, and I came to exactly the same place again, and I showed the book a second time. But this time what happened, this fellow was on the phone to someone, and we know in India, as soon as the phone rings, everything else is forgotten about. It's like a full focus on the phone. So he was on the phone, and he didn't even notice me. But his wife immediately bought the book, So sometimes the wife is called the better half. So the fellow was a rascal. I chastised him, and the wife understood. Oh, my husband's a rascal, And she very humbly took the book and was very thankful, So happens like that sometimes. uh, So actually, the Prabhupada, he explains how the appearance of Narada Muni was of such great fortune for these people, even though they'd become greatest rascals, by his association, they got the greatest opportunity, actually. And Prabhupada explains that ultimately his curse was auspicious and brilliant because of this curse in the future they would be able to see Krishna face to face. So Narada's curse, it wasn't like me out of anger, but Narada's curse was out of pure compassion and without any false ego. So sometimes some difficulty is there. I was just remembering also the story of King Chitraketu. He also got a curse, right? But it's explained in the story of King Chitraketu. Lord wanted Chitraketu to come back home, back to Godhead. So he thought, I'll terminate all his sinful reactions in one go and purify him and bring him back. So he arranged for Chitraketu Maharaj to get cursed by Parvati. We know the story how, actually the whole story is a whole big long story, with the son and the son dying and Narada bringing his son to life and his son speaking with pure self-realized knowledge, the whole thing. And then he became like a devotee. But then later he was wandering and he came upon Lord Shiva with Parvati sitting on his lap, and he was talking to all these great sages about renunciation with his wife sitting on his lap. So King Chitraketu, he wasn't offensive or anything, but he just laughed because it's so funny, if you saw someone, if I had my wife sitting on my lap and I was talking about renunciation, you would think it was hilarious. So somehow he laughed, but Parvati took it the wrong way and she cursed him to become a demon. So he took birth as Vritrasura, a great demon. But in that lifetime, he was able to return back to Godhead. He was able to get killed by Indra with this thunderbolt weapon, and he was able to quickly go back to Godhead. So our highest good fortune is somehow or other if we come in contact with the pure devotee of the Lord, in this material existence. And it's a very rare thing, actually. When I think back on my own life, sometimes I wonder how it happened, because I had no plan to take to any pious kind of life, quite the opposite, and somehow I came in contact with devotees and my life got transformed, Yeah. When I think back on it, like Prabhupada, sometimes he talks about Krishna's hypnotism. Krishna bewilders us, and somehow we take to devotion. It's like that. I wonder back, and I just wonder, how did it occur? Yeah. In Ireland many years ago, actually, when I joined, we had one disciple of Srila Prabhupada. He was a temple president where I joined. Tribhuvanath Prabhu. He's I don't know if you ever heard of him, but he's quite well known in ISKCON. And apparently he was very much favored by Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada liked him very much, and he liked his preaching mood. And he was telling that at that time in ISKCON, things were a little bit more spontaneous and not so organized like today. So he tells one day after the class, he was talking with some devotees outside the temple room, and they were discussing how Prabhupada, when Prabhupada was young, he went to this Scottish Churches College, right? And they were discussing, and they were thinking, wouldn't it be nice, wouldn't it please Prabhupada if someone went and opened a temple in Scotland, And they just decided, and that evening they were already off to Scotland, And they didn't know where they were going to stay, what they were going to eat, or anything, So they brought a few books. They went to Edinburgh, the capital city in Scotland. And so they were distributing some books to get some money. They didn't know where to stay. So they were going door to door, can we stay in your house tonight? They were preaching a little bit. And finally they found someone, an old man. His wife had departed some years ago, so he had a spare room in his house. So he allowed them to stay in the spare room, and the room was just a small room with a big bed in the middle. So that's where they were living, and they used to have programs in this room. The devotee would be sitting on one side of the bed giving the talk, and the guests would be sitting on the other side. And they just had one stove for cooking, and all they could afford to cook was some potatoes, some aloo. That was it, aloo or some oats. That's all they were eating, like for weeks on end, And somehow, there's a whole story there. Somehow or other, they were able to acquire a place to make a temple, and they were preaching, and they were making devotees. And finally, they invited Prabhupada to come. And Tribhuvanath Prabhu, he arranged some big program, and they invited all these people to come. And Prabhupada came and gave a little lecture there. And all they had to distribute as prasadam was oranges, That's all. Distributing oranges. And even Prabhupada, he ate like about 5 or 6 oranges. There was nothing much to eat there. So anyway, the point is that Prabhupada was very pleased with the endeavor and the sacrifice of these devotees. And Tribhuvanath Prabhu tells it was the most amazing moment in his whole life. Prabhupada was walking down the hall, and Tribhuvanath was paying his obeisances to Prabhupada. And when he got up, Prabhupada wouldn't let him get up. He kept him down, and Prabhupada was just rubbing his head and looking. It's hard to describe this. Looking straight into his eyes and rubbing his head and saying, "Oh, I am very pleased with what you have done. I'm very pleased with what you have done." He said it was the most incredible moment in his whole life. Imagine if you had such a reciprocation from your guru. What a benediction, So what kind of destination we can achieve if we can please Krishna's devotees? Tribhuvanath Prabhu, he was a real man for Harinam Sankirtan. He loved to go out, and they would go out in the early days, all day long. He used to say that in this age of Kali Yuga, the people are so dull that our Harinam Sankirtan, our chanting should be like a laser beam, so concentrated, because people are so dull. Just to get through to people, it should be like a laser beam. So the most powerful Harinam Sankirtan is when devotees who are really seriously practicing Krishna consciousness and really seriously chanting their japa and everything, when they come together and do Harinam Sankirtan, that really has the big effect, Just like for some time in Dublin, I was going in Dublin in Ireland, where I'm from. We were going out, myself and one other devotee. Usually it was just the 2 of us, sometimes 3 of us, and we were going out every day on Harinam Sankirtan. And if you go out in the same place every day, you will notice how powerful is Harinam Sankirtan, because after some time, we would meet people all the time who would come and say, "What is this? I'm interested. I want to find out more about this." Or you'd be chanting on the Sankirtan procession, and you'd hear people in the background. "Oh, here's the Hare Krishnas," in a joyful voice. It's kind of like a miracle. Like when the movement first started, it was the opposite. Sometimes people would come and beat devotees or call the police or something like that. But people become purified, actually, And it came to a point where any time I went out of the temple, it was always a big disturbance, because, maybe I'd be doing the shopping for the Sunday feast or something, and I'd always meet someone who wanted to talk, So I couldn't do anything without going out and speaking. It was ecstatic, but it was like a transcendental disturbance, So wherever you went, you would meet people who wanted to talk, and wanted to find out more. So Srila Prabhupada, in one of the previous purports, he's explaining how this real culture means to diminish the modes of passion and ignorance. All over the world, the whole world is controlled by these modes of passion and ignorance, and come to the quality of goodness. So that's what Prabhupada wanted to do. He wanted to bring us up to the quality of goodness and beyond, to the transcendental platform. So therefore he established things like our morning program and our chanting of japa and our hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam. But sometimes, many times, we see that those who are supposed to be in the mode of goodness, just like in India, so many people are born into a Brahmin family, but they're not always in the mode of goodness, So, and they'll even use being born in a Brahmin family to avoid taking a book. I don't know if anyone's had this experience, but I would be distributing on the trains, and some people, they won't say a word, but they'll just pull out their Brahmin thread, and they'll give this look. I already know this, I am Brahmin, so I don't have to buy the book. Actually, you're supposed to hide your Brahmin thread, but they don't even know that much, Or sometimes people will say, I'm a Brahmin, and they have no thread, One boy was telling me, I'm a Brahmin. I said, where's your Brahmin thread if you're a Brahmana, He wasn't wearing his thread, And then one time I was distributing on the train, and I met one man. He says, I'm born in a Brahmin family, I'm a Brahmana. And I said, so you know what is Brahman? And he says, yes, I have all these Vedas, all Puranas, Upanishads, I have everything in my mind, He said, come, sit, he said, And I thought, oh no, I shouldn't have said that, because he probably wants to explain to me all the teachings of Shankaracharya, his purport on Shariraka. But so I said, no, actually I don't have time. So I started running away, And he was coming after me, and he wouldn't let me go, and he was laughing. I was wondering why he was laughing so much. And I says, no, I don't have time to discuss these things. And he says, no, not that thing. And then he, in a quiet voice, he told me, I'm having some whiskey. So actually, and then I realized the fellow was drunk, So similar like these sons of Kuvera, And then people, they're supposed to, such people, they're supposed to know what is the Shastras, Just like I met another fellow, young fellow, he told me, I have studied all the four Vedas, And I doubted very much. He was in his 20s, It would take your whole life to study the four Vedas, And he challenged me on some point in the Shastra. I can't remember now exactly what it was, but I defeated him, So it was quite easy to do. So then I went on, and I came back later to see if any more people had gotten on the train. Then I met him again, and he said, I have a question for you. And I could see by the look on his face that he thought he had the question that would get me, He knew, I'm going to defeat him now. I could see this look of pride on his face, And I was a little bit afraid. Oh no, maybe he has studied the four Vedas and he's going to give me, he's going to speak something in Sanskrit and
completely bewildered me, and I thought, oh no, what's he going to ask? And he asked the most foolish question I could ever imagine. He asked me, what is the difference? Can you tell me what is the difference between the Satya Sai Baba and the Shirdi Sai Baba? This was, this is from someone who studied the four Vedas, and this is like, the biggest challenge in the modern age, And I actually couldn't believe my ears, And I had to explain to him, we don't accept either of the Sai Babas, what is the use of saying what is the difference, I was thinking afterwards I should have said, yes, the difference is, between the wet stool and the dry stool, that's the only difference, like the Satya Sai Baba is like the wet stool because he ended up being discovered to be a pedophile, so maybe he's the wet stool. And then the other one's like the dry stool, Maybe he's not just as bad, But wet stool or dry stool, we don't want to touch either, If I tell, at the end of the class, we'll make two lines. One line we're giving wet stool, and one line we're giving dry stool, You wouldn't find anyone queuing up, It's not that the dry stool line will be full and the other one empty. Both lines will be empty. So we don't accept either, So in the modern age, people's intelligence, they come on the level of the buffalo. It's the only Tamil word I remember. Yerumai, yeah, Yerumai. We come on the level of the buffalo, So this chapter that we're studying, actually, it's always been a favorite chapter of mine because there's so many instructions in this chapter, actually. And later on in the chapter, it's explaining actually the benefits of, because these people became degraded because they were rich and they didn't know how to use their riches. But it's explaining the benefit of living a more simple life, and the benefit of even being in a poverty-stricken condition, Because if someone is a poor man, he's more likely to give respect to the saintly person when the sadhu comes, But a rich man, he's more likely to tell you to get lost because he's very proud, isn't it? Like, so sometimes also going door to door, sometimes you come to the rich man, the big man in the head of the company, and he'll immediately become angry and tell you to leave, Whereas the person who's not so puffed up like that, he'll immediately be humble, His whole family will come and bow down at your feet. They'll invite you in the house, and as soon as you get in the house, you know for sure they're going to buy a book, because they won't want to disappoint you, or at least they'll hear some good. You get a chance to preach to them, so in that way they get a chance to get some benefit, But Prabhupada's saying in the modern age, the rich man, if you're lucky enough to get to his house, usually they have some lock on the gate and some sign saying, "Beware of the dog," isn't it? So one time, actually, Prabhupada and his disciples, they were on a walk somewhere, and they saw some gate with the sign, "Beware of the dog," and Prabhupada was repeating, "Beware of the dog," but Prabhupada, he wasn't referring to the dog. He was saying, "Beware of the owner." So like I was explaining, the real culture is to bring people to the mode of goodness, and that's what the real education is for. And so Prabhupada explains that if someone is not educated in that way, he takes to these activities of wine, women, gambling, and so on. And then later on in the chapter, we'll see that he explains then it goes further. Then after the wine, women, and gambling comes the meat eating and the opening of the slaughterhouses, as the modes of passion and ignorance increase, people become involved in such very heavy sinful activities, you know. And we can see that also in India, just like the place in Secunderabad where I'm distributing books. Some time ago, maybe last year it was, they opened one Kentucky Fried Chicken place. And I was shocked. Everyone's eating chicken, because they don't have any education, what they should eat, you know. It's always full, and then when you go on the train, everyone's eating chicken biryani, Everyone. And sometimes I'm distributing this book. It's called Sanatan Dharma, The Way of Transcendence. It's I love it because it's repeating all these important verses from Bhagavatam in the first canto, Savai Pungsang Puro Dharmo, Shushushu, Shridhanasya, all these amazing. Prabhupada wanted us to learn all those verses, Vasudeva, Bhagavati, Bhakti Yoga, all these ones. So it's one of my favorite books to give out, actually. And also among the small books, this Hare Krishna challenge as well. That's a good one. Actually, when I'm giving out this Hare Krishna challenge, I'm telling people that in this book, Srila Prabhupada, he's speaking about all the things that we're doing wrong, and I'm giving the example of the taking of the intoxication, the gambling, the eating of meat, the connection with it without marriage. And people can immediately understand. But then sometimes people become angry just because you mention these things, because most people are doing these things, So sometimes if you try to speak against someone's sense gratification, they become angry. I was explaining this to one lady and the family, and as soon as I mentioned about the meat eating being wrong, the son stood up and became angry like fire, and chased me away, And that sometimes happens. I remember one man became a little disturbed, and I said, "Oh, you must be becoming disturbed because you're doing all these things." And immediately his wife started laughing at him, So it was confirmed, So in the modern age, one of the problems with Kali Yuga is that people, they want to show themselves as being saintly or being in knowledge of the Shastra or following, but actually they don't follow, That's the person of Kali Yuga himself is the greatest example. He was dressed like a great king who's supposed to be a saintly person, and he was killing the cow and the bull. Isn't it? He was giving trouble to the cow and the bull. So people are like that in this age. They're posing themselves to be very spiritually advanced, but they're actually doing all the wrong things, So there was a time when I was wondering, of course, it's not that everyone we meet is a rascal. I'm just kind of focusing on that because it fits in with the story. But in India is still a place where you find many pious people and very special and very cultured and very spiritually advanced people. But sometimes when you go, Krishna's arranging different experiences when we go out preaching. Sometimes we meet all the good people. But sometimes we get a day where we just meet all the rascals. And it can be very tough. So one day I was wondering, well, why is it? Why is it that people are so disrespectful? Sometimes it's hurtful, also. When you practice Krishna consciousness, your heart becomes a little soft. And sometimes it can be hurtful. And I was wondering, well, why is it so? Why is it that people, they are so disrespectful? Why isn't it that everyone buys these books? So then I found some purport where Prabhupada was explaining. He was all posing the same question. He was saying, if the Lord is in, because the Lord's in everyone's heart. It's not that we're just preaching to people. The Lord is also trying to preach to people. Whenever he gets a chance, he tries to give the good intelligence. But people are so involved in trying to exploit the material world that they can't hear the Paramatma speaking to them. They can't hear it. Or maybe they hear it and they just don't give it any. They don't care. So Prabhupada, he was asking, if the Lord is in everyone's heart, why is it that people aren't inclined to become devotees? So then Prabhupada explains the answer. He said that because of offense after offense to both the Lord and to the Lord's devotees, their heart becomes barren, like an alkaline field that isn't able to give any good produce. So sometimes we get if I'm not an expert on farming or anything, but if the farmer doesn't take proper care of his field, the farmer, he doesn't put the same crop every year in the same place. One year he'll grow this, next year he'll grow something else. In between, he'll put fertilizer on the field. He'll put the cow dung or whatever, he'll spread it on the field so that the crops will grow nicely. And so similarly, by making so many offenses against the Lord's devotees, someone's heart becomes like the barren field. So they can't take to devotional service. They can't understand the first thing, So then naturally they become offensive, or disrespectful, But still, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission, just like we have another pair of offensive people. So I give the example of Chitraketu making his offense to Parvati Devi by the arrangement of the Lord. Then these two fellows, they became offenseful because of the misuse of their wealth. And Jagai and Madai, they were just rascals from the beginning, right? Actually, they were the same Jai and Vijay who were cursed to become, Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, Ravana, Kumbhakarna, Shishupal, and Dandavakra. So then sometimes it's explained that they wanted to take advantage of the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so they agreed for a fourth birth as Jagai and Madai. So externally, they appeared as the greatest rascals. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his mission is not to kill all the rascals, otherwise there'll be no one left on the planet. So his mood is to deliver. So in this age, we have this mood of mercy. So if people become a rascal, you still try and benefit them in some way, speak something nice, or give them some prasadam, at least you'd have to be the biggest rascal to refuse prasadam. I have another I'll wind up in a second or two. Another story from Ireland, where I'm from. One devotee was telling that when he was young, his brother came to join the temple. So his brother joined the temple, and the whole family became angry. So they sent his brother. His brother's a big fellow, big, well built, strong. You wouldn't want to, get in his way. So he came in an extremely angry mood to the temple. Okay, where's my brother? I want to bring my brother home. So devotees were a little afraid, so they went and they found. So his brother was taking a shower actually at that time. So he told, okay, just sit down, please be patient. He'll come after 10 minutes. So while he was waiting, they brought him a bowl of halava. Our tradition. At least we offer something to eat. So they brought him a bowl of halava. So he thought, okay, anyway, I have to sit here. I may as well eat something, because he was quite well built, so he was probably also hungry. So he ate the halava, and while he was eating the halava, slowly his anger was going down. And but by the time he finished the plate of halava, he was in a good mood, And his brother came, and they had some nice exchange, and his brother was able to preach to him. And then he just thought, what's the problem? So he just went home. And then he actually started, because he wanted more of this prasadam, so he started coming for the Sunday feast. And he gradually became a devotee. That's Arjuna, for those who know. So he's one of the best loved devotees in Ireland. Everyone likes him. He's such a nice person. And with this big body, he did so much seva over the years. When we had the Hare Krishna festivals, he would be the security guard. We would do these. They would have these Karmi music festivals, and we would go and put up a Hare Krishna tent and have non-stop kirtan all day long, all night long. He would be on the security, because these festivals, they were just full of jagai and madais. Even I was shocked when I saw it. When I first joined to the temple, I know what goes on in the West. I saw it all. But even because I was quite a young age, I never saw it on such a level. It's even hard to describe. It was like thousands and thousands of people gathered in this music festival, and all of them were drunk. All of them were drunk. No one could walk in a straight line. Wherever you go, people were passing water, in the open, without caring who's watching, And then sometimes they become angry also, sometimes we were chanting on the stage, and someone would throw a bottle or a big can of beer, you'd have to duck your head, And but even such fellows became purified, Tiruvanath Prabhu, that was his thing. Prabhupada was pleased with his festivals, and he gave him an instruction: you do these festivals all over the UK. And he wouldn't let any of the devotees leave the stage. It was actually quite frightening sometimes, He wouldn't let any of us go. He said, you just keep chanting, just concentrate on the chanting, just keep chanting. And slowly, not everyone was angry, but they were all intoxicated, But you'd always get 2 or 3, crazy fellows come in the tent. And he said, just focus on the holy name. And sure enough, after some time, these fellows would quieten down, and they would even start dancing in the kirtan, and they become transformed, So Lord Chaitanya, we can see he gave the perfect medicine, can transform. And so many people became devotees from those festivals also, Even there was one devotee. He was a punk rocker before he joined. These fellows, they're famous for listening to the loud music and taking the intoxication, and also for being violent, So one time he describes he saw the Harinam Sankirtan coming through his city, And he saw, what is this? What is this peace and love? You know, he said, I'll show them what is peace and love. So he ran up and he kicked one devotee. You know, so you can't get more offensive than that. You know, but somehow or other, he must have had some interactions with devotees over time afterwards. I forget his whole story, but he ended up joining the temple later on. You know, also. And also with myself, you know. I'm sorry to admit it, you know, but I was a bit of a rascal, you know, before I joined. When I used to see the devotees chanting in my city, I hated it, you know. I thought, what are these people doing chanting? What is this? What are they saying anyway, you know? And I can even remember one time me and my friends, we were getting a bus into the city. And I said to my friends, oh, I hope those Hare Krishnas are not in the city today, you know. I don't want to see them. What a rascal, you know. And sure enough, they were, you know. But somehow, you know, the sound vibration was going inside there, you know. So I was hearing it. Over time, I became purified. And what actually changed me was some of my friends, they moved over to a city close to London. And they were taking the food for life. They had no money, you know. We were all young guys, you know. They had no money, so they used to come and take the food for life. And I thought, you know, these people, they must be good people. It changed my vision completely, and I gave up my bad attitude. Then after that, anytime I met devotees, I was respectful, and I took some. I still tried to avoid taking books because I was a real miser. I was a creeper also before I remember the first book I ever got. I was going out to the record shop to buy some music, you know, and I only had enough money to buy this record. And I met a devotee on the way, you know, and the devotee was so nice, you know. I wanted to keep my money, but the devotee was so nice, I couldn't say no, and I didn't want to give the money. So I lied to him. I said, "Oh, I don't have any money." And he said, "Oh, you can take the book anyway. Just give something, anything, you know." So I was looking in my pocket to find the smallest possible change that I could get, you know. And I gave him a really small donation, and I could see by his face he was a little bit disturbed, and he said to me, he chastised me. He says, "Don't be a miser, you know, don't be a miser." And him saying that because it was coming from a pure heart, you know, he was just similar like this chastisement. It was without false ego, and I could immediately see, oh, I'm a miser, you know. Oh, how terrible! I was feeling bad about it, you know, and. Just some exchanges like that, you know. Slowly, I became interested. And lastly, finally, you know, one of my friends, it was one of my friends actually. He bought this book, Coming Back: The Science of Reincarnation, and I believed in reincarnation somehow. So my friend gave me the book. And I read this book, and that's what changed my life, you know. And especially all the quotes from Prabhupada. The whole book is nice, but those quotes from Prabhupada, the words of a pure devotee are so powerful. They went straight to my heart. And there was one quote about how sinful it is to eat meat. You know, it says, so the quote from Prabhupada was explaining that someone who eats in such a way, in his next life, he'll have to take a very low birth. And there was a picture beside the quote. There was a picture of a pig, you know, beside the quote. And I looked at the quote and I looked at the picture and I thought, oh my God, you know, that's my future, you know. So after reading that book, I changed my life. And then the next time I met a devotee, I bought the higher taste and became a vegetarian, you know. And I was very attached. We're attached in this world, you know. Everyone knows how difficult it is to bring someone to Krishna consciousness. It's not an easy thing. And in the West also, you know, family attachment, attachment to friends. I was very attached to my friends, and I didn't want to leave my friends. So I was actually, I was going over to some, I went to London to see some, my favorite band, my favorite musician was playing there, you know. And this band, they were famous. They made music, but their music was full of some kind of philosophy also, you know, even though they were degraded fellows. So in between the songs, he would speak some, what he thought was really wise statements, you know, philosophical statements. But after reading Prabhupada's books, it just sounded foolish, you know, whatever they were saying just sounded like nonsense. And towards the end of the concert, I just thought, I'm just going to forget about this and join to the temple. That's when I decided, you know, right? And I just walked, I practically worshipped this band. You know, people, they were practically worship their favorite musicians, you know, like in India, it's like Michael Jackson or something, you know, people practically do puja to him, you know. So I just walked out of that concert, and when I came home, I phoned up the temple. I want to come and visit the temple. I took 2 weeks holiday from my job, and I went to stay in the temple. And after that 2 weeks, I didn't even want to return home. I didn't even want to go outside the temple, you know. So I came back just for a few days. I came back. I got my last. I had some money. It was some paycheck from my job. I picked up my last paychecks, went to see my mom and dad, and got a bus to the temple, and that was it. You know, became a brahmachari, and I never looked back since. You know, so that's all by Prabhupada's mercy and by the mercy of the devotees. If the devotees didn't come, you know, and approach such a rascal as me, I would never have had a chance. You know, my life would have been spoiled, ruined, and my next birth would have been a sinful birth, you know, animal birth at best, you know. So anyway, I'll finish up there. Sorry to go on a little bit longer than I should have. Don't know if anyone has any comment or any question, but otherwise we'll leave it there.